Chapter 41 I want to avenge his daughter. This is the third update. There are many barbarians in Britain in this era. It is different from the Celtic race led by King Arthur. Most of Votiging's men are Saxons and other races. Wales is still the territory of those nations. Even if King Yaus won a big victory this time, he is unlikely to attack that side. So now when I can't continue the fight, I can only temporarily settle down there. Okay. Votiging's subordinates knew the current situation and it was impossible to continue the fight, so they nodded and agreed. In the end, the defeated Votigung army rushed to Wales, and was ready to launch another attack on King Arthur at any time. King Arthur was also unable to continue pursuing. This can only happen by letting it happen. But now, the whole of England is now under the command of King Arthur. The Chalk City. In front of the treasure house of the city, there was a pair of handsome men and women sitting at the door. People in other cities were all in ecstasy because of the victory in the war, but these two people had a sighing expression. Lot, did you say that my father did the right thing? From the perspective of the whole Camelot country, he is undoubtedly quite right. But Lot began to grit his teeth as he said this. As a son-in-law, he is really annoying. Well, yes, what my father did is too much. Morgan also agreed with Lot's opinion. Just today, Lot and Morgan returned to the Chalk City. Ask, what is the first thing to do when the wife takes her husband back to her natal home? Of course, it was to see what good things her mother had, and then quickly took them away. And when they came this time, Morgan and Lot were confident. We helped you work, we worked hard, we even had a face-to-face fight with Votiging, and almost killed him. You are the old man, can't you just give us some? Lot and Morgan came with several empty carriages. Then, they got an answer that made them very sad. All the money in the house was used by King Yaosef, used to pay those soldiers to maintain combat effectiveness before fighting. Not only did he have no money for Lot, but he even wanted to find Lot to borrow a little and prepare to host a feast with the people of the city tomorrow night. You have a banquet, and you even borrowed money from me? Lot and Morgan wanted to refuse, but in the end, Lot and Morgan hadn't talked about King Arthur together, who made the two of them not the same age as King Yaosef. Therefore, King Yaosef went back contentedly. Only Morgan and Lot were left sitting on the steps of the treasure house doubting life. Morgan, do you know, I've never been wronged this way. Lot said to Morgan. Yeah, I haven't suffered either. Morgan also nodded vigorously. Lot suggested to Morgan at this moment, then shall we retaliate and go back? How to get revenge? Can you still beat him up? Morgan asked strangely. First of all, my father is an elder. After all, it is probably unreasonable to beat him up because of this. And it's impossible for me to just beat my father. I'm roughly a filial daughter. Beat the father. My Pendragon family style is not enough to make such a filial child, right? Secondly, even if I don't object to these, there is a question. I hope you will be clear about Lot. You can't beat my father. He is a person with the blood of a red dragon. That is an opponent who can fight Votiging head-on. At that time, the two of us shot together, but barely escaped from Votiging. If you go to beat my father, I should think about how to save you. Of course not. I won't retaliate against him like that. When Morgan said this, Lot's expression suddenly became strange. Why should I retaliate against him? I can't beat it at all. It's easier to get revenge on his daughter. Well, yes, it's easier to target my father's daughter. Morgan nodded subconsciously. Then she realized something was wrong, etc. My father's daughter, isn't that me? What are you thinking? If you dare to avenge his daughter, believe it or not, I will avenge his son-in-law. I won't let you go to bed tonight. Hatilda. Altria, come. I'll give you a task. Lot found Altria. Yes, your majesty. Altria said firmly. Well, when the feast is held tomorrow night, you remember to stay on the city wall to maintain order. Lot said seriously. What? Altria was embarrassed. Originally, I was looking forward to tomorrow night, taking advantage of the feast to have a special meal. Then, I need to stand on the wall to maintain order tomorrow night. Others are eating delicacies, so leave me blowing cold air on the rooftop. Good. But these should be done by the knights. So Altria could only agree to it. The aggrieved expression on his face can be seen with the naked eye. And looking at her with such an expression, Lot's face showed a sense of joy from his heart. Bullying my sister-in-law, that's really funny. Ha ha. Lot felt that a devil's tail was about to grow on his tailbone, and this sense of pleasure lasted until the evening. So why should I go to the living room? Holding the pillow and the quilt, Lot looked at Morgan, who had closed the bedroom door, and couldn't help but asked aggrievedly. How did I provoke her? Did her relatives come? No. I remember that I just came here half a month ago. Lot stood at the door with a dazed expression. This, what is it for? Very wronged. Really wronged. Listen to the aggrieved voice of Lot outside the door. Morgan's mouth turned up slightly. Humphrey, still want to calculate my aging mother? Think hard tonight and wait till tomorrow. Tomorrow is a bit long. 3 hours later. No, 1 hour. Cannot be lower. If it is lower, the slutty dog will have to push his nose to his face. This will not work. In terms of family status, I, Morgan, have the upper hand. She thought triumphantly in her heart. At the same time, in the palace of King Arthur looked at Merlin who was standing in front of him. You said, who should pass this Camelot's throne to? He asked Merlin seriously. Chapter 42 I don't want to be sorry for my daughter, First more, your majesty's body, is it like this already? Merlin's face remained unchanged, and she asked King Yaozef. Yes, you knowingly asked. My body, although I barely survived the battle with Vortigern. However, it has also been seriously injured irreparably. Soon, my body will be supported. Can't go on anymore. King Arthur stared at Merlin, his face very flat. It seems that he would never take the matter of life and death to heart. What Britain needs is a king who can lead people to victory, not a weak king. Yes, your majesty is not wrong in what you said. Merlin nodded quietly. What this island needs is a great monarch who can change history. Your majesty, you are indeed a very qualified king, but it is not enough to undertake this mission. Hey, Merlin, you geese are really annoying. King Arthur cursed at Merlin. Hearing his scolding, Merlin just smiled and didn't care about it. He was originally a pleasure criminal who had no emotions and wanted to observe human beings. No matter what others said to him, he didn't care at all. I'm just telling the truth. So, according to your truth, to whom should Camelot's king belong? Altria. I still want to say it's Altria, Merlin said without hesitation. She will be a qualified king who will let Camelot exude glorious splendor, and she will let the history of this island nation belong to mankind. Yes. Then, King Uther asked Merlin, I want to know, if it weren't for Lot's presence, then what would my destiny be? You told me that he is special and he didn't interfere with your prediction. What fate will it be? Your majesty will die in battle. He will die in the battle with Vortigern, and this chalk city will belong to him. It will not be until a long time later that Altria will be defeated by Altria. Merlin answered his foreseeable future. Oh, if that were the case, I would be a humiliating king. King Arthur laughed at himself. Unlike now, I am still a victorious king. He stood up like this, came to the edge of the castle, opened the wall and he watched. Merlin, do you know how I withstood Vortigern's attack at that time? This, I really don't know. Merlin said frankly. Haha, sure enough, although you fellow Merlin can imitate all feelings, you still don't understand it. King Arthur said to Merlin with a big smile. This kind of laughter made Merlin feel an unknown panic. What kind of emotion is this? Merlin realized that this was not imitated by herself, but came out of her own heart spontaneously. He felt that he couldn't be detached anymore. Your prediction is not completely accurate. King Arthur smiled, and then asked Merlin, so, in your prediction, what will my daughter Morgan look like? She will become a concubine who wants revenge because of resentment. In the end, she will do things that everyone regrets. Merlin said to King Arthur. He will not lie. Really? Although I don't know what it is, I believe this is not a happy ending. King Arthur looked over the entire chalk city. Camelot's other land. I am willing to leave it to fate to decide. Whether it's your calculations or Lot's stronger power, Morgan or Altria can be the king. But the city in front of you, that it was because of Morgan and Lot that he kept it. King Arthur glanced at the location of his castle's treasure trove. The two little guys. When I came here today, I saw that I had brought several big cars with them. They were planning to arrive with the purpose of emptying out my wealth. It's a pity. I have already divided my things. After going out, their disappointed expressions are really funny today. So, this chalk city, if I don't leave it to Morgan, they will probably scold me more in their hearts by then. I don't like it. My daughter will continue to complain in my heart in the future. Remember, no matter who becomes the king, this chalk city is Morgan's fief. For Altria, I'm sorry enough, and for Morgan, I don't want to feel sorry anymore. King Arthur replied to Merlin. Your Majesty, if you do this, it will lead to the division of Britain. Merlin said to King Arthur. In your prophecy, isn't the chalk city that there is no one? And, if anyone wins, then it proves that the side is right. If you win, naturally you can continue to fulfill your prophecy. You want what you do is up to you. And if Morgan wins, I will look forward to what will happen then. At least, by doing this, my two daughters will not resent enough to want to kill each other. As for Vortigern, I don't worry that these two daughters will be defeated because of each other. King Arthur said so. Immediately, his expression was a little bit regretful. Unfortunately, Lot is not my son. Fortunately, Lot is my son-in-law. Yes, your Majesty. Merlin nodded and recognized it. There was still a constant smile on his face. However, it also turned into a bitter expression. Well, this is my decision about the future. In the end, there is only one thing to ask you. King Arthur smiled and said to the old white-haired liar in front of him at this moment. Your Majesty, what else do you have? Merlin seemed to have a foreboding what King Arthur was thinking. Of course. Just halfway through the words, at this moment King Yaos waved his fist and punched Merlin in the cheek. I looked at your face that saw everything through, and I wanted to punch it hard. You might have expected it. But it doesn't matter, I'm already cool. King Arthur sat on the ground at this time. Okay, you can go down first. Thank you for so many years of hard work. You may have to work harder with Camelot. My body will not collapse now. If you want to do something, do it now. Go get ready. Merlin left silently. Here, there is only King Arthur left. I, Arthur Pendragon, should be considered a competent king, he said quietly. Chapter 43. This couple is just crumbs. Second more. Here is the chalk city. Morgan stood on the gentle outside the city, holding hands and said proudly to Lot beside him. Yesterday, both Morgan and Lot came over with a carriage happily and prepared to come to fight the local tyrants and take the father-in-law. So for this city, Morgan hadn't come in a hurry to take Lot to stroll around. And today, Morgan took Lot to take a good look at the chalk city of Camelot. After all, the dog was still locked out for more than an hour last night. Yes, Morgan was still relented after being closed for more than an hour last night. Put Lot in it. Then it worked. Looking at the chalk city, Morgan said to Lot, "Here is a glorious and great city. Even if it doesn't exist now, it will definitely be greater than Rome and even more glorious than Athens in the future." Lot also looked at the city carefully. The chalk city is definitely not big. Fainean is like a few miles. There is a big gap with the city of Rome, the city of 7 hills. It's even worse than the Chian city, which is open the palace in 9 heavens, and worshipped Mayanki in all nations' clothes. But in this Britain, it represents the wisdom and civilization of the British people. In the morning sun, the white city wall exudes a bright yellow. Lot could see that there were traces of all sorts of siege on the wall. The time since the last battle is too short. The traces of the war will not disappear. It's like the people of Camelot, although it has gone through hardships, but after all, there is a bright future. The city gate opened, and the civilians in the city lined up with the merchants carrying goods on pack horses, walking into the city gate like a long snake. Sure enough, the happiest thing every day is to happily appreciate how the civilians can live happily during the day. Of course, there was also a good night to sleep with Morgan's arms around. Lot thought in his heart. Morgan looked at him. Laughter really is different. He is an out-and-out pacifist. The knights are used to fighting and never think about how to build. They should take a good look at the dog. Siguzi's power in war is so high, but he still likes to care about construction more. According to what Siguzi said before, the only people who know that they are fighting and plundering can only be a group of robbers. Even if they are strong for a while, they are still inferior to those who are willing to lower themselves to build. Morgan felt a lot about the first half of Lot's heart. And for the second half, isn't this common sense? What's so strange? If Siguzi tells himself that he doesn't like to do this kind of thing, then I'm going to make a good point with him. Morgan thought to himself as he gritted his teeth. After spending some time on the grass outside, Lot and Morgan had to return to the chalk city. Of course it's not something. The main reason is that the appearance of the two people is too high. Although the Celtics are conservative compared with Rome, they are also compared with the Romans. The people here are still very courageous, especially those girls. The knights who didn't know Morgan naturally knew that the person next to her was her husband. Lot dared to harass these two people. Don't want to live anymore? But those girls are not like that. One by one, they gave Lot flowers. Then after the delivery was over, they also glared at Lot. Lot believes that if mobile phones have not yet been developed, they will definitely hand over a note in the process of sending flowers. On the note, their mobile phone numbers and opened room numbers were written. However, none of this was done, and Morgan couldn't bear it anymore. So she took Lot's hand and entered the chalk city. Along the way, pouting, looked very angry. Lot looked in his eyes, secretly smiled in his heart. It seems that the vinegar jar is overturned. Fortunately, I am a good man with a clean body. But she looks like this. It really makes people like to see more. Morgan came to be jealous for himself. This is a scene I had never imagined before. Morgan couldn't help pouting his mouth higher when he heard Lot's words. Good guy, I behaved like this. Can't you come over to coax me? You still have to think about whether I am cute or not. Humphrey, you, that is, I can accept only a large number of Morgans as adults. If I changed to another person, I would have been unable to stand you a long time ago and left. Morgan thought of this, stretched out his hand and grasped Lot's palm tightly again. Then, she raised the hands of the two people aloft. She is telling everyone. You are optimistic. This guy is my husband. None of you want to touch his mind. But when she did this, Altria suddenly came out. Your Majesty Queen. Do you have anything to do? She looked at Lot and Morgan with expectant gaze. What is this guy expecting? Oh, yes, I deliberately rectified him, so that she was on duty tonight and could not go to enjoy the dinner. Then she wanted to show it to me and Morgan, and then switched to the opportunity to enjoy the banquet tonight. Lot could imagine just by looking at Altria's expression, what she was thinking about in her heart. By his side, Morgan was also aware of it. To this, Morgan thought for a while, then showed a smile very similar to Lot's. We have nothing to do. Just playing. By the way, what are you doing? Should you be on duty tonight? But, I remember the city's defense. Our Orkney side only needs to dispatch a few batches. People can do it. Oh, yes. Altria looked at Morgan expectantly. There are not many people in need, so can you change someone? At this moment, Morgan lightly patted Altria's shoulder armor. But since it's your turn, then you should do it well. Come on. I am optimistic about you, Morgan said solemnly. Ha 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 ha. Lot couldn't stop the laughter in his heart. And Morgan also smirked in a serious manner. Unhappy. Only the depressed expression was almost too much to conceal. Altria. Yes, your highness, Altria said to Morgan. Then, sadly, she took people to patrol. Only Lot and Morgan were left looking at each other and smiling. Very bad. After laughing for a while, Morgan saw two people sitting in the bar not far away. One of them had a huge bruise on the corner of his eyes. Chapter 44 Tuogu. This is the third one. Although these two people are trying to hide. However, in the eyes of Morgan and Lot, these two men seem to swim by two sharks in the river, and they couldn't hide them at all. King Arthur is Morgan's father, Lot's father-in-law. How can it not be recognized? As for Merlin, you have seen all of Great Britain with grey hair, still that long, still that kind of fluffy hairstyle. But something to Lot's surprise was that one of Merlin's eyes turned into a panda. Is this being beaten by someone? Lot looked at Merlin like this, thinking in his heart. I have to say that Lot and Morgan felt really happy seeing this kind of scene. Oh, isn't this Merlin? I haven't seen you these days. Did you pull it like this? Lot was still imitating Merlin's tone, spitting at him like this in his heart. Of course, Lot and Morgan are also a little strange in their hearts. Why does he do this? Who was beaten by? The two thought this in their hearts, and then walked over there together. When they walked over, that Merlin and King Arthur were still drinking in the bar. Merlin was hooking up with the waitress in the bar, and she was about to pat her with her hands. Next to him, King Yowzef was disguised as an adventurer, bragging about his experience with other adventurers. I told you that when I was young, it was the heroic and invincible King Yowza who fought in the east and the north. Do you know? We even slaughtered the dragon that time. Morgan and Lot listened and looked at each other. You said, if you use magic to record these and then threaten him in the future to pass Camelot to you, do you think this is feasible? I feel that it is not impossible. Morgan looked at King Arthur, who had already blew out that he had defeated an entire Roman legion by himself. Morgan said with some uncertainty. Most of the people present didn't believe it. Some people even joked with King Yowza. Then why are you just an adventurer now? Of course it is. King Arthur saw Lot and Morgan at this moment, and then grinned and said, I have met my beloved woman. Right, my daughter? This. Upon hearing what King Arthur said, both Morgan and Lot were stunned. No, don't you feel embarrassed at all? Your daughter and son-in-law are watching you like this? My old husband, did he hit the Merlin magic? Morgan nodded in approval. Ha, what's the matter with you? King Arthur came to Morgan and Lot, and then said to the drinkers who were drinking with him just now, come on, let me introduce you to you. This is mine daughter, and this handsome boy is my son-in-law. How about, are they two very beautiful? There was a burst of laughter from everyone. Morgan seemed embarrassed and stretched out his hand to pull his further away. Hey, I haven't had enough. King Arthur murmured like this, but he was still taken out by Morgan very obediently. On the other side, when Lot saw that Merlin's hand was less than 5 centimeters away from the waitress's ass, he reached out and grabbed it. Oh, that's a bit close, I'm almost touching it. Merlin's face was full of regrets. Okay, go out with me. Do you really want to get a punch on the other side of you? It will be symmetrical then, Lot said to Merlin. Merlin shrugged, then followed Lot out very obediently. In the process of going out, Lot was still asking Merlin, by the way, what's the matter with the injury on your face? Who beat it? If I said it was your majesty, how would you react? Merlin continued to ask Lot. I just want to say one question. What? Your majesty, King Arthur's hand is too light. If you change to me, you will definitely hit heavier. Lot said very candidly. This? Merlin shrugged, showing a familiar wry smile. Lot doesn't care about those. If Merlin really cared about what he said, then it wouldn't be so difficult to deal with him. A magician who has no emotions and a certain ability to predict is a terrifying opponent. When he came outside, Morgan asked his father boredly. I said, Father, what are you doing? The dignified King Yowza, instead of handling official duties, he brought the chief national teacher to the small bar. Come catch the fish inside. Is it fair? Is it fair? Is it fair? When Morgan said so, King Arthur was also a little embarrassed. He touched his head, said to Morgan, isn't this just idle and bored to relax? You see, I have been fighting for a whole life, can't I enjoy it? Yes, but you do? Morgan said dumbfoundedly. I used to do this when I was called a big dragon. After becoming a king, I never tried it. Today the whole city will be caught in a carnival, so I have to take a good look at the happiness of the year. Morgan had no idea what to say now. Just wanted to talk about it. But at this time, Morgan heard Lot's voice. My old husband, my body is not as relaxed as it looks outside. Not so easy. Morgan also looked at his father. He is still that strong. But is it really just being strong? At this moment, King Arthur spoke to Morgan and said, Morgan, you go back to the court to see how the banquet is prepared. Don't make any more mistakes. Okay, all right. Hearing what his father said, Morgan believed Lot's judgment even more. However, in order to protect her father's dignity, she nodded and agreed. Morgan left. King Arthur looked at Merlin again. Moreover, he raised his fist. Seeing his actions like this, Merlin touched his eyes. Then I go? He said to King Arthur. Okay. King Arthur and Lotzi nodded together. Merlin then left. There are only Lot and King Yowzef left here. King Yowza said to Lot, come with me. Good. Luo featured head. He roughly knew the purpose of King Arthur's coming to find himself. Afterwards, the two came to a remote place, and King Arthur spoke directly to Lot. My body can no longer support me to continue to be the King of Britain. Chapter 45 3 Last Wills, First More. Okay. Lot nodded slightly. You don't seem to be surprised? King Yowza looked at Lot's expression, and seemed to say a little strangely. This, anyone can see it. Your Majesty, your body is already strong. Lot replied to King Arthur. Immediately, he looked at King Arthur and asked seriously, Your Majesty, Do you have a few months left? Did you ask that? King Arthur said dumbfoundingly. This young man, are you really not afraid of being beaten? Believe it or not. King Yauser thought about his only remaining combat power, so he could only give up this plan. He is basically only a slightly stronger middle-aged man now. Lot, who looks so beautiful on the outside, is actually very strong and can't be compared at all. Your Majesty, I'm sorry, I just want to ask, so that I can help Morgan to tide over this psychological shadow in the future. Lot was still very concerned about Morgan's psychology. He himself didn't have much emotion for King Yaozef, and after all, the two people had only met a few times. However, he was very afraid that Morgan would be uncomfortable because of these psychological conditions. I don't know. Maybe a few days, maybe a few months. In short, my time is almost gone, King Arthur said very freely. Lot said nothing. And at this time, King Uther continued to say to Lot, Lot, in the future era, whether it is you or Morgan, those are the most amazing and talented people in this world. After my death, this Chalky the city will belong to you. Remember, keep it here. Well, I got it. Lot nodded vigorously. Now it seems that there may be really no way to save King Yasser's life. However, he now has a much better ending than in history. He now died with glory. It should be considered dead and no regrets. Lot thought in his heart. But he just thought of this. At this moment, King Arthur spoke to Lot. I have 3 most regrettable things in my life. Lot, I may be asking you to help me finish it. Lot didn't know how to complain. You say. However, if Lot could accomplish this King Yauser's last wish, he would still help him complete it. At least whether the king in front of him is a king or Morgan's father, there is no problem in this life except for a little bit about Altria. So Lot will agree to his last wish. First, Votajing's problem is only temporarily solved. But he himself is not dead. No matter how much less his territory is, as long as he is alive alone, then his threat will definitely not be weak. Well, for the sake of the happy life of Morgan and me, as long as I have a chance, I will definitely kill Votajing. Lot said affirmatively. Well, I believe in your abilities. King Arthur nodded and approved Lot's question. Then, he said his second last wish. Secondly, this Britain is not just humans. Remember, fairies and the like are not the same race as us, and they will never be kind to us. Be careful, never let fairies grow bigger. Well, this Britain must belong to Camelot. Then, take care of Morgan for me in the end. When it came to the end, a regretful expression appeared on King Arthur's face. That's my wife, of course I will take care of it. Lot assured King Arthur. Don't worry, no matter who you choose to be the king, I won't let Morgan get hurt at all. You knew already? Hearing Lot's words, why didn't King Arthur not know that Lot already knew that besides Morgan, there was another child? Of course, how else could I let her perform official duties tonight? Lot smiled and said to King Yauser. You. King Arthur shook his head and pointed to Lot who didn't know what to say. Bad taste. Lot is really bad taste. But on the other hand, I know that Altria is my child. At the same time, Lot, who knew she was a girl, was really terrifying. This guy, when it's reliable, it's really reliable. But when it is unreliable, it is also really unreliable. Wisdom, kindness, handsome, and chivalry at the same time, but without losing wit. This is the husband I asked for Morgan. It's really good. King Arthur thought comfortedly in his heart. Immediately, he seemed to feel that he had been making requests with Lot just now, and he did not return Lot in return. So he asked Lot, by the way, my body can still support for a while. During this time, I can do something for you. You said, what else can I help you with? Wool and cloth? Well, it really does exist. Lot thought for a while, and then said to King Yauser, if there is a need, then I really have something to ask you to help me do something. What's the matter? Just another hard punch to Merlin's face, so that both his eyes became black and blue. Lot said to King Yauser earnestly, this is naturally extremely simple. Of course, King Arthur's request to Lot would not be rejected at all. At the end of his life, he can do something he didn't want to do before, such as hitting Merlin and the like. After the two had studied how to fight Merlin, Lot and King Arthur separated. Tonight, there will be a banquet. At the banquet, Lot estimated that this chalk city at the foot of King Arthur's society would belong to his wife Morgan. Back to where he and Morgan lived, he originally thought Morgan would be changing clothes at this moment, and he was stuck in a state of entanglement about what clothes to wear. But he didn't expect that when he came back, Morgan put on a dress casually and was staring outside. Lot, is something wrong with my father? How is this possible? Lot said with a smile. You see, today he can still beat the old liar of Merlin with a vigorous punch. Then it proves that there is no problem with his body. Where did you hear the gossip? You would doubt that your father would something happened. These are all nonsense. Damn it, how did Morgan know? Lot shouted loudly in his heart. Now it's time to be happy. I don't want Morgan to run out of time to be happy about her father. Let's wait until after this banquet. I have to let her accept this news slowly. Morgan heard Lot say and think so, and tilted his head to the side. A trace of tears quietly appeared in the corner of his eyes. Morgan quietly wiped the tears from the corners of his eyes. My husband doesn't want to make myself sad, so don't be sad. If I show a sad expression, My husband will continue to be difficult to do. I can't see this situation. Morgan pretended that he didn't know the situation, but looked at Lot with a smile. Well, it looks like I was deceived. Well, Lot, wait until after our banquet, and then go and beat the guy who dared to arrange my further behind him. Indeed, it should be a brutal beating. Lot agreed with Morgan's words. Both people looked at each other with secrets in their hearts. However, this secret not only failed to create any sense of estrangement between the two parties. Instead, it is closer. Lot, come here, I want to hug you, Morgan said to Lot. Okay. Lot smiled and spread his arms and embraced Morgan. Feel the warmth in Lot's embrace. Morgan thought secretly in his heart, Lot, from now on, you will be my only support. I am your wife. Once again, they changed into a very elegant evening dress. Morgan and Lot, who had changed their noble dresses, drove a carriage of 4 white horses to the palace of King Arthur. In the city at this moment, it has become a carnival. This chalk city has now become a city that never sleeps, as bright as the day. All kinds of amusement and play, all gathered in this city at this moment. People are celebrating the victory of this battle in their own way. The nobles gathered in the banquet hall, talking in 2s and 3s. When Lot and Morgan walked in, everyone looked at them. Lot and Morgan are the second protagonists of this dinner. 2 people walked in without anyone else. After Morgan entered, he picked up a piece of food and quietly put it in his mouth with a fork. After eating, Morgan's face showed a twisted expression. Lot, the food here is really not good. Not to mention that compared with your own home, even if you make it by yourself, it is much better than this, she whispered to Lot. Yeah, I think so too. Lot recognized Morgan's words very much. The 2 people talked in such a low voice, and King Yauser quietly appeared in the chief of the seat. And beside, stood a Merlin whose eyes both turned into black-green. Lot and Morgan smiled brightly. Everyone, welcome to you, Arthur said to everyone. After speaking, everyone had a drink together. After drinking this cup, King Yaus continued to say to others, I came here this time for 2 purposes. The first is to celebrate our victory in the war. And the second point. Yauser looked at everyone. I want to give the land under my feet to my daughter. As soon as this remark came out, the audience was in an uproar. Chapter 46 The Way to Become Queen. Second more. Your Majesty, what are you talking about? Hearing what King Yaosef said, the nobles present still fell into a short period of stagnation. The news was so shocking that many people couldn't believe their ears. After a while, someone asked King Yusef like this, I want to give the chalk city to my beloved daughter Morgan. Do you have any comments? But, Your Majesty, His Royal Highness Morgan is just a woman. How can she have the power to inherit these? The nobleman continued to speak to King Arthur. Okay. Hearing what this nobleman said, whether it was King Arthur or Morgan, his expression changed. King Yauser simply felt a kind of provocation because his subordinates were challenging his authority. And Morgan, at this moment, discovered that he was going to inherit his father's business, and he was facing a huge problem. I am a woman, and in every country or tribe in Britain in this world, it is men who become kings. They don't want a woman to become a king. Especially now on the British Islands, Camelot, who has vaguely become the #1 power, is the king. They definitely don't want to subdue themselves to a woman. This makes Morgan very worried. She hoped that she could inherit her father's ambitions and spread Lot's thoughts throughout Britain. Only in this way can she be worthy of her father and Lot, who has been heard by herself. But now, these nobles do not allow themselves to inherit their father's territory. What are they going to do? Yeah, she is indeed my daughter. King Yaosa nodded affirmatively. Is there any problem with my daughter for my things? At this time, the nobleman continued, Your Majesty, we didn't have the right to talk to you about your things. However, this chalky city is of great significance. This is the capital of Camelot. Become the master of this city. Yes. Doesn't it mean that we are going to be the next King Camelot? Your Majesty, we would never want a woman to be our king. The expressions on the faces of King Arthur and Morgan became even more ugly. And Lot also looked at these nobles with dangerous eyes. These people don't want women to become kings. Don't they just want them to have the opportunity to become kings? After the death of King Asa, they will definitely look for a choice, and then turn Camelot into their own pocket. Morgan listened in her ears, and then she walked over to King Arthur's side. As the only daughter of my father, I will not inherit his business, so who else can do it? Can you say that you can inherit the business of our family? She said to the nobles. Since you want to cover up, then I will just lift all of your fig leaves. Take it out and expose it to the sun to see what your color looks like. Since you don't want me to eat it, don't eat it. Lift the table tilde. Especially the nobleman who spoke just now, Morgan also pointed his finger at him. Just count the most enjoyable you dance. I'll take you for surgery later. This nobleman dared not answer. Although I do have such thoughts in my heart, who would dare to say it? King Arthur seems to be fine at the moment. You say you want to inherit the name of the king of their family. This is definitely the standard to die. King Yaosef probably can eat him raw, or the kind without seasoning. The current King Yaosa is not the King Yaosa in history. At that time, he died early. Morgan only had the status of the daughter of the previous generation king, and Orkney's strength was not good, so she didn't have much say in the relief of choosing the king. Now it's different. King Arthur is still fine for now at least, and it just won a big battle. Prestige is at its peak. Moreover, Lot's Orkney is not a weak county. It is an important force that determines the destiny of a national war. So now Morgan speaks with King Yosef with confidence. This nobleman didn't know what to say. The right to inherit the throne and the right to decide are not in your hands. King Arthur came to the nobleman and smashed his cheek with a sword and said, "The Chalk City is my territory, right? Even in the capital city, I have absolute power to dispose of it. I told you that the Chalk City belongs to Morgan, and that belongs to Morgan. I'm just here to inform you, and it's not here to solicit your opinions. If anyone has an opinion, you can talk about it as long as you have beaten me." Naturally, this nobleman dare not. He didn't know that King Yosef had actually been a foreigner. He only knew that in his impression, this King Arthur was a cruel person who could fight against the humble King Votagung. Go to fight this kind of person? How many lives do I have? This is absolutely impossible. As a result, under the fierce gaze of King Arthur, this matter was finally passed by force. However, even Morgan, who won the Chalk City, was not in a good mood. She saw the difficulties she would encounter in the process of becoming a king. The king requested by the nobles may be brave or cunning, but there must be an important premise. That is, a man. A woman can't be the king of Britain. Depressed in his heart, Morgan wanted to go back to his bedroom a long time ago. Lot was also worried about Morgan's mood and left the game with him. The two returned to their residence. As soon as I entered the house, Morgan took Lot's hand and went straight to the bedroom. What she needs most is a hearty vent. Lucky dog, quickly use your invincible male dog ways to let me ease my depressed mood. After venting, Morgan vented all the depression in his heart. Lying in Lot's arms, she seemed as good as a kitten at the moment. Lot, you said that the resistance of those nobles was too fierce today. What if they all oppose me becoming king of Camelot? Simply, follow me back to Orkney. Believe it or not, in 5 years, I can use Orkney's prosperity to make these nobles realize how wrong their actions are. At that time, they would kneel in front of you in batches and ask for your forgiveness. His Royal Highness, please come and let me be your subordinate again. Lot squeezed his throat, learning from the voice of the nobleman who had been taught by Morgan and King Arthur just now. "Hey, you are disgusting, and I feel a little vomiting when it's disgusting," Morgan said to Lot with a look of disgust. At the same time, he patted his chest lightly with his hands. "Ha ha." Lot grabbed Morgan's hand. "Okay, take a good rest. It's getting late now, and you should rest too." "Well, hold me tight," Morgan said to Lot. At the same time, she adjusted a comfortable posture. "If you want to directly pillow your arms, it is not feasible. After a long time, your arms will become numb and sore, and the slutty dog will be very uncomfortable." So, he buried his head directly on his chest, wrapped his arms around his waist, and 2 legs tightly twisted one of his legs. Guzi looked down like this, just to see her long hair and hips. "Okay, this posture is good and suitable for rest." Morgan lay down like this, and when she lay like this, Lot was thinking about the queen in her heart. In this era, there are patrilineal clan societies, and the status of women is really not high. It is no wonder that queens are much less than male kings. Moreover, many queens rely on military merit to maintain their dominance. Unfortunately, these Morgans can't do it. The identities of those nobles do not come from the king, but from their blood, so it is not easy for them to recognize Morgan as the king. Therefore, only by completely abandoning these nobles can it be possible for Morgan to rule the country smoothly. To solve this solution, the best idea is to adopt an examination system. To be precise, it is a civil service examination and a night competition. Through examinations, we can find a group of new officials who are following their orders. They are originally from a low status, so it is easy to be grateful to the freshmen who hired them. Only these people can wholeheartedly maintain the status of the regime, and they will not refuse Morgan a woman to become a king. Because without Morgan, their status would be questioned, and then they would be driven off from this position. And in this era of Britain, there are still many powerful knights in the wild. In fact, it is not too difficult to find. However, is this a bit too deviant? Would Morgan like it? This thing is not easy to do for all the nobles. If she did this, the risk would be great, and the nobles would definitely interfere. So, let's wait until the territories are more powerful. Don't worry about becoming a king. Morgan heard all this in his ears, and a smile was drawn at the corner of his mouth. This solution is exactly what I like. Any compromises, since the other party is unwilling to accept themselves, then I simply let them go out of business completely. As for the guts, are you kidding me? The most important thing I lack is courage. Morgan thought enough in his mind. This matter must be executed after he becomes the king. Let these nobles quickly surrender their positions. But now, how can I become a king? Chapter 47, The Beginning of the Sword in the Stone Plot. Furthermore, while Morgan was still trying to listen to Lot's continued thinking, Lot stopped at this moment. He reached out and put his arms around her waist. Then he hugged Morgan tightly. "Sleep, it's time to sleep." "Wait, you haven't said the most important thing yet. How do you become a queen?" "I still want to know." "Don't get stuck in this place." In the end, Morgan, who pricked his ears and didn't hear it for a long time, fell into a dreamland in a daze. When Morgan was still asleep, King Arthur was already standing on the highest platform of the city. He looked at the whole city again, and standing beside him was the Merlin with black eyes. "This era that belongs to me is finally coming to an end today," King Arthur said sincerely. His body is getting worse and worse. It is estimated that he will soon be unable to support it. Therefore, instead of seeing a critically ill king lying motionless on the hospital bed in the following days, and letting the various nobles do the calculations at that time, it is better to leave as soon as possible. At least leave an unknown threat to those nobles. King Yaosa, who had always won in a row, disappeared, and no one knew whether he would reappear. The nobles will be scrupulous. Therefore, King Uther felt that it was a good choice for him to disappear like this. Merlin couldn't hide it, so let him accompany him to finish this last journey together. King Uther looked at Merlin's two black eyes, and said with a smile, "I have to say, you are so funny like this." "Lot is right, he should have given you a double eye." "Green is good." "Your Majesty, is it a bit too much for you to treat the courtiers who accompany you to finish the last part of the road with you like this?" Merlin said to him with a wry smile. "Really? Then I will make up 2 more punches?" King Arthur asked, tilting his head to Merlin. "Just forget it." Merlin hurriedly moved 2 steps away from King Arthur, seemingly avoiding possible attacks from King Arthur. Ha 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 ha. Seeing him like this, King Arthur smiled wildly. Then he walked towards the north. Go, and see where I can go. Where I die, let me fall." "Merlin, the rest of the time, it will be up to you and Lot to fight. But you must remember to me that there is no problem with how you fight, but you must not let other people take advantage." "Well, don't worry." Merlin watched as King Arthur disappeared from his sight. Then he shook his head slightly. It seems to regret that one of his friends is missing. Next, it is the age of King Arthur. When the age of King Arthur is over, where should I go? Lindsay said to herself. But immediately, he thought of himself, not to mention the post-Arthurian era. Even in this era, he still couldn't be sure of the future. With Lot there, everything began to become complicated and confusing. Therefore, I still need to work harder in this era. Things in the future will have to be considered later. At this moment, Wales, Votaging led the soldiers just settled down. There was a castle here, and there was also a lot of food in it, so when Votan came over, they quickly gained a foothold. Are those foreign nations also subject to Bailong Fu Taiging's powerful force? They all chose to surrender. In a short period of time, Fu Taiging gathered a large number of troops. It's just that Votagung knows very well that although these troops are large in number, they are all mobs. It is still unrealistic to counterattack England. It will take a long time to organize and train. And tonight, Votagung seemed to feel something in his heart. Take a look at the direction of England. He sighed softly. My brother, he should have left Camelot today. The opponent who has killed himself for a lifetime has finally ushered in his own ending at this moment. In the previous war, although King Yaosa was defeated, but now it seems that he did not lose so badly. At least, King Arthur left in his own hands. But this happy feeling only lasted for a few seconds because he thought of a question. King Arthur has disappeared, so who is the opponent he has to face? Fu Taiging remembered the couple he had to face when burning the granary. Although I don't know what the situation is over there, Vudajan can guarantee that the final winners must be these 2 people. Despicable, shameless, unreasonable. Fu Taiging gritted his teeth and said, those 2 people are too irritating. Arsehole. Next time, if I see them, I must catch them and concoct them well. But even though I was always thinking about how to avenge Lot in my mind, but the Vudajan knew that these 2 people were definitely not easy to deal with. It is more than twice as difficult as dealing with King Yaozef. After all, the lower limit of these 2 people is too low and too low. But that's good. The more difficult the challenge, the more honor I will get in the future. Fu Taiging comforted himself. At the same time, he also knew that he needed more helpers to help him deal with these 2 people. Who is this helper? Do you need help? Just as he was thinking like this, a sudden voice appeared in his ears. Who? He clenched his fist and shouted to the surroundings. We are fairies. Fairy. ... In the early morning, all the people in the chalk city were awakened by the rapid screams. There were still many people who were irritated to get up. After being woken up like this, they all went out to see what was going on. After learning the specific situation, the anger on their faces turned into panic expressions. Camelot's sky collapsed. King Arthur, the Camelot King of Britain, has disappeared unexpectedly. No one saw where he went. In short, the mystery has disappeared. No one suspects that someone is going to kill King Yaozef. After all, that's a fierce man who can slash against Votagung. Who can let him slip away in silence? So he can only disappear mysteriously. Regarding this, Camelot's people are talking about it. Some people say that King Arthur is looking for the Holy Grail in the legend. Some people say that King Arthur is looking for the fairy in the lake. It is also said that King Uther intends to kill the dragon by himself. Some people even say that King Asa and humble King Votaging agreed to a duel between the 2 sides, and he is now heading to the battlefield of the decisive battle. And after Lot heard the news, He knew what King Arthur was going to do at this moment. He never wanted to show his weaknesses. It's really a face-saving fellow. Lot said this heartily. Huh? Lot, what are you talking about? Morgan asked Lot. No, nothing. Lot interrupted quickly. He knew that King Yaozef didn't want his daughter to know his state at the moment. Keep it mysterious, then let time dilute it all. Morgan heard this too, and she grabbed Lot's hand and immediately clenched it tightly. Hey, where did this man go? Go, Lot, let's find it, Morgan said to Lot. Okay. Lot nodded slightly. Immediately, the two began to walk through the city together. In fact, both of them knew that King Arthur could not be found, so they do this mainly for relaxation. So even in the end, they did not find King Yuzab. At this moment, King Uther should have gone a long way. In the next few days, Camelot continued to search all over the world, but King Yaozef, who deliberately avoided it, was not found by anyone. In the end, everyone could only accept a reality. King Arthur is completely missing. As for Camelot now, there are still many things to deal with, so everyone had to take care of the government affairs of course. The Chalk City ultimately belonged to Morgan. Therefore, Morgan and Lot did not return to Orkney during this period, but dealt with the backlog of the Chalk City before the war. During this time, the backlog of the Chalk City is very much. Morgan and Lot have dealt with things for more than half a month before they barely have one date to come. However, when Lot and Morgan came outside, they saw that they all gathered together. What happened? Lot caught a passerby and asked him. Because it has been working continuously for half a month, Lot and Morgan are in the dust. The passerby also didn't realize that the two of them were the masters of the current Chalk City. Don't you know yet? This person looked at Lot and Morgan unexpectedly, and said, these days, there have been rumors in the city that if anyone can draw the sword in the stone, it is the new Camelot chosen by the heavens. King. The new king will become a better king than King Asa. And just yesterday, a holy sword inserted among the huge rocks appeared outside the city. After that holy sword appeared, many people went there, trying to take off the holy sword. But in the end, it all failed. Today is the second day, and more people in the city know about it. At the same time, there are also the Knight Masters who have gathered from all over, all coming over, ready to draw out the sword and make yourself a British the new king. After saying this, Morgan immediately raised his eyebrows. Who said this can become the new king? Chapter 48. The Identity of Arthur. Fourth More. Becoming a king is a serious matter for Morgan. Must have the talent of the king. In terms of pedigree, I am the one who deserves to be the king, and if it's about talent, Lot should be the king. As a result, someone now tells her that she doesn't need any identity or talent. As long as you pull out the long sword that is placed in the stone, you will be the king of Camelot. At this point, Morgan couldn't help it. There was anger on her face at this moment, and Lot stopped her. Okay, shouldn't we just go and see what the situation is? He said to Morgan. At the same time, in my heart, sword in the stone, Merlin is still involved in this matter. Okay? Hearing Lot's heartbeat, Morgan suddenly pricked his ears. Does Lot know this matter? Moreover, this matter has nothing to do with Merlin. What is the old liar, Merlin, going to do? Although Morgan had always doubted his purpose, she also knew that Merlin would not do anything harmful to Camelot for the time being. So who does he intend to be king? Morgan absolutely didn't believe that Merlin set up this sword for himself to draw. Lot, you said that the sword inserted in the stone is the legendary holy sword? Morgan asked Lot. Probably. Of course it is the holy sword. It's just that it wasn't the one used by the holy sword ambassador in the legend. It could only be said to be a relatively ordinary holy sword. This kind of holy sword can still be made by an old liar. Ah, the ordinary holy sword. Hearing Lot's words like this, Morgan felt a little relieved in his heart. As long as it's not a holy sword that can wipe out a city with a single swing, it's easy to say. At this time, Lot was still thinking in his heart. He really spared no effort in order to let King Arthur come to the throne. Lot continued to think in his heart. Okay, King Arthur. Morgan heard the name again. Lot has proposed this name more than once. Morgan knew very well. This is my sister. It is also a person with the same blood of the Red Dragon. High hopes were given by his father. In Merlin's eyes, he was the heir to the throne who was more powerful than himself. Lot, who are you after all? Can you pull this sword up? Morgan asked Lot calmly. Wait until you have a look over there. Of course it is Saber. This old liar had already set up magic, and no one could use this holy sword except for the Red Dragon bloodline of King Arthur. Morgan was convinced of the old liar. Good guy. This old guy, in the presence of a large crowd, will go and come up with a black box operation. Except for the people of the Red Dragon bloodline, no one can pick up this holy sword. Really, Yin? No, if Arthur can pick up the holy sword, can I, who have the same blood as her, also do it? Morgan had some eagerness to try. But the most important thing now is to find out who Saber Arthur is. During this period of time, Morgan has also been searching for the various knights, wanting to find out who the King Arthur is. However, after searching for a long time, she still found nothing. For most of the knights, the leader is no smaller than his father. It is absolutely impossible to become Arthur, and the age of the small group leader is appropriate. However, they are definitely not women pretending to be men. The heads of the knights were unshaven. Even if they were dressed as old women in the countryside, they could clearly see them 3 miles away. So, How do you ask? Just ask it directly. What if Lot has troubles, huh? Well, continued to tap sideways. After thinking about it, Morgan continued to ask Lot, okay, let's go there soon. What if the holy sword has been pulled out after we go? If the whole Camelot believes the person who pulled out the sword in the stone, if it is Camelot's chosen king, aren't we too passive in the past? This is impossible. She was assigned a task by me last night. She was on duty until the middle of the night, and she shouldn't be able to get up yet, etc. Hearing Lot's words like this, Morgan immediately reacted. He only arranged for someone specially yesterday. Adopted son of Sir Rector, the chief of the Knights of the Round Table. Altria. At this moment, Morgan immediately connected the previous things together. Why did Lot say in his heart the day before yesterday that he was going to avenge his father's daughter, in order to repay the hatred that he hadn't caught at the door of the treasure house? At the time, he thought Lot was going to target himself. I have to take revenge on myself. He also quietly shut him out for more than an hour at night. But now it seems, sure enough, my dog will never jeopardize himself. He actually wanted to fix it, his sister, Altria. So, I wronged my dog? But I am not to blame. Who didn't let him think about it clearly? If he directly told me Altria's name, I wouldn't be punished like that. So well, after arriving at most, I will give you an extra kiss to apologize. There is nothing more. Moreover, Morgan also thought that this is why, when she and Lot met Altria for the first time, she would give herself a very strange feeling, which made herself think that she had some hallucinations when she was practicing magic. Now it seems that it is because of blood connection. Good guy. Without knowing it, he recruited Altria to be under his command, and made her a capable man of his own. Wait, this isn't Merlin's conspiracy, is it? Using Altria to consume our food, so as to achieve the goal of winning without a fight? Well, it is indeed Merlin, that is really insidious and cunning. This grudge, I will find a way to retaliate later. My father gave him blue eyes, so should I also beat him with blood for the sake of matching? No, he is a magician, and his methods of beating people are not very powerful. Such professional matters still have to be handled by professional people. Well, dog, it's up to you then. You are someone Merlin can't predict, and you're also a knight with great skill, so taking advantage of it, punching him in the mouth is still very effective. I decided to do it later. Just as Morgan was thinking about it, Lot also thought about Altria again in his heart. At the time, King Arthur knew that he was losing to the humble King Votaging, so he and the Duchess of Cornwall created Altria. Then for the sake of everyone's reputation, he handed over to Sir Rector to raise him. At the same time, Merlin was also teaching her secretly. And then, it should be that she drew the sword in the stone because of some coincidence specially arranged by Merlin, and then became the King of Camelot. If anyone comes to question, Merlin will tell the story about Altria is actually the son of King Arthur. What a story about a rich second generation who pretends to be a rookie, and then pretends to be slapped in the face. Lot thought in his heart. Although what you said earlier is really powerful, but in this last sentence, it is true that the character of the dog has not changed in any way. But knowing that this person is Altria, then things will be easier. She is also a member of my Knights of the Round Table anyway, and I want to control him. Oh, no, it should be her. It's much easier. At this moment, Morgan felt that Altria's appearance in his mind became clearer. It's no longer the kind of feeling that just looks familiar. Her face looked very similar to her own. It should have been the interference described by Merlin before. If it weren't for the interference of his magic, I saw this face that was more than 90% similar to myself, and I would definitely consider whether this was my sister or not. Old liar, you insidious fellow. But this time I found you in advance. What will you do later? Morgan thought proudly. Then, she looked at Lot and said, Lot, do you think we should let our own men try? If we really have our own hands to try and the result is successful, let him give up. So will Merlin's plan come to nothing? Hey, the expression on that guy Merlin's plan failed. It really makes people feel happy and want to eat more bowls of rice. Good guys. You really dare to think about it. Lot thought a little dumbfounded. He was a little moved. This is actually very easy. Altria can be transferred back at any time. But let's forget it. Now we should sullen our heads and set up a target in advance to hit others. That's actually quite good. Lot, don't be so aggressive. Morgan heard Lot's heartbeat and thought helplessly. If you want to be a king, then you can be the king right from the beginning. Staying behind to develop slowly, that's nothing. As a king, you must have the determination to do your part. If even the first one to become the king is still scared, it will be very detrimental to the hearts of the people under his command. I say scumbag, you are really smart, but your decision-making ability in some aspects is still a bit weak. What is this? You are not hard enough at the critical moment. So, I will do some things. Camelot's king, I am going to be the king. By the way, I have to want other people in this world to prove that even if it is a woman, it can also become a queen. What women disguise themselves as men? I had to ask everyone to swear allegiance to me in the palace dress. Hey, thinking of the benefits, Morgan couldn't help but laugh. Seeing her look like a silly girl, Lot was a little speechless. Okay, look at your appearance. Okay, you can go find it. I will go with you to find someone. No, I'm fine. Morgan quickly refused. She said to Lot, you go there first. What if someone pulls it out directly over there? Well, I'll go over and take a look first. Liu agreed. After he was gone, Morgan had a mischievous smile on his face. Come on, Merlin, you old liar. See how I lied to you. Also, Altria, although you are innocent, who makes you my good sister? I have to starve you for a day. The current Morgan would be surprised if Lot saw it. To be reasonable, is this still your own little wife? So black, do you still shake hands? An ordinary stone, as long as a holy sword is inserted on it, a large number of people will gather around, vying to try to draw the sword in the stone. Among them, there is no shortage of the kind of natural strong man and the kind of powerful knight. They all believed this rumor. The person who can draw the sword in the stone is Camelot's natural king. Therefore, for this rumor, they used all their strength to try to pull out the sword in the stone. It's just that the efforts of these people are wasted. Unfortunately, the courage of these people deserves encouragement, but they are destined to be unable to pull it out. Merlin thought in her heart while eating the apple. He did it with magic long ago. Unless it is Altria, otherwise no one can pull it out. In this world, there has never been a destiny. Some people would have undertaken certain important missions. The fate of Britain still has to be handed over to Altria to be more reliable. Merlin thought in her heart. Well, now the time is almost up, and there are enough people around. Among the witnesses of everyone, the real Miss Night Wang should be on the stage. There was a movement in his heart, and then he flew towards the place where Altria was. So hungry, so hungry, so hungry. I'm so hungry. Altria didn't care much about things around him. She is really hungry now. Since Lot put her on duty at that banquet, she has been on duty for the past few days. Today is the end. In the past few days, although the duty was in charge of the meal, it also left only the weight of a normal soldier. What is the weight of a normal soldier? For Altria, that's just an appetizer. Not enough. Altria thought aggrieved in her heart. But starting today, it doesn't have to be so miserable. My duty career is over. Therefore, there is still food in the canteen now. Taking this opportunity, I hurried over to eat. Supplementing food is an important guarantee for maintaining the combat effectiveness of the knight. Not full, how can I have the strength to do other things? Altria thought in her heart as she walked. The 49th chapter before the sword in the stone. 5th more. Eating, eating, nothing is more important than eating. Altria thought in her heart. Rubbing her stomach, Altria walked towards the cafeteria. The canteen is also Lot's invention. As long as the conditions are sufficient, you can eat more of Orkney's delicacies. But if it is said that the only thing that makes Altria feel that it is inadequate, the hand of the aunt who serves dishes in the cafeteria is always trembling. Why don't you let me cook? If I are allowed to cook, I can guarantee that no soup will leak. Altria expressed deep regret. She was walking towards the dining hall, and before she took 2 steps, she saw the figure of Merlin appeared in front of her. Miss Merlin, do you have anything to do? Altria asked Merlin. Although hungry in his stomach, Altria still patiently obeyed Merlin's instructions. She likes to eat, but she is not the kind of person who wastes time because of eating. That's it, Altria, I have something for you to do right away, Merlin said to Altria with a smile. This expression is like an old fox looking at a white rabbit. When he came over, he had already probed, and Altria didn't even know about the sword in the stone now. Therefore, it is possible to deceive Altria and let her draw the sword in the stone. If she knew it, it would actually be a bit difficult. Altria had no ambitions to be king. Loyalty to Lot and Morgan. There is no suspense at all. If she knew it, she wouldn't have even glanced at it if she passed by the sword in the stone. So, of course, some necessary small measures have to be taken. What? Hearing what his teacher said, Altria's face showed bitterness. I want to eat. Can you let me go after the meal? Altria thought to her in her heart. Of course, this is just to think about it in my heart. She would not say it. Well, I'll do it right away. She nodded depressed and agreed. It's not that I want you to go to work. I met your Lord King Lot just now when I was passing by. He said he had a sword forgotten outside the city, and he has something. Let me take it for him by the way. Come on. But I saw you just now, so you go and run errands for me. My old arms and legs. But I can't stand such a long journey. Altria, if you are like your lord one day, but don't try to instigate me like this. Teacher, I can't see how old you look anymore. Especially when I see beautiful women. My horse does not run as fast as you. Now you tell me, your old arms and legs. Miss Altria wanted to complain, but she didn't know how to complain. Regardless of food. Wrong tilde. As if seeing her grievances, Merlin said to Altria, Altria, do you think your lord will let you go for nothing? You think it's the food in the army canteen? Does he compare? Altria swallowed, her eyes gleaming. It doesn't matter if food is not food, it's mainly to serve the lord. The tone is very firm. What a firm knight looks like. Seeing her like this, Merlin felt a joy. You drew the sword in the stone, and Morgan's hopes fell to no avail. And at this time, you still want to eat delicious food. My poor King Arthur tilde. I hope you can run fast enough later. Merlin thought in her heart. But on the surface, he still used his usual smile to tell Altria where the sword in the stone was placed. Tell Altria that the sword is over there. At the same time, he still didn't forget to tell her, His Majesty Lot is very anxious for this sword, so you have to get it as soon as possible and give it to him. Well, I got it. Altria had roughly remembered the location. Outside the chalk city, there is still a little far away. So, I want to start quickly. Otherwise, the stomach should be hungry. With a strong urge to dry rice in my heart. Then, he set off and definitely. Merlin smiled and picked up an apple, put it in his mouth and chewed it. The current situation is still in my grasp. Apples, very sweet. This situation is also very safe. In order to eat delicious food earlier, Altria used all her strength to run. Although when there are pedestrians, she will stop in time. But watching a man in armor rushing towards you at a speed of 100 kilometers per hour, and then stopping less than 1 meter in front of you, like this, that also scared several people to pee their pants. After all, Altria knew she could stop, but those pedestrians didn't know. It's too scary. It's really scary, pedestrians thought in their hearts. In this way, Altria ran out of the city violently, then walked to the position of the sword in the stone. After Altria walked over, she saw a dense group of people. What's the situation? Is His Majesty Lot's sword so popular? Oh, no wonder. After all, it is the long sword of His Majesty Lot. It must be very precious. Altria thought in her heart, then pushed away from the crowd, trying to squeeze through. Please give me a hand, and I will get the sword inside. Sorry, please borrow it. I'm going to get the sword inside. While squeezing, Altria said to everyone, there are a few people present who don't want to let go. Damn, you want to get the sword, and we want to get it too. However, their strength is obviously incomparable to Altria's desire to eat. Soon Altria squeezed to the front row of the team. She saw the sword stuck in the stone. Oops, His Majesty Lot's strength was quite strong, and he threw the long sword into the stone casually. Fortunately, this is not too deep. Well, I will pull it out now. Altria thought in her heart. Then she was ready to go. But just when she was about to act, she felt a light pat on her shoulder. Altria, how did you appear here? Altria turned her head, just to see Morgan standing not far away, looking at her. His Royal Highness. Chapter 50 Altria, draw the sword for me. First update, first order. Morgan can take a good look at his biological sister at this time. A face very similar to himself, but much smaller. The image of a heroic boy. Females are characterized by no development at all. You eat so much every day, where does this grow? Morgan complained in his heart. Coupled with Merlin's suggestive magic, no one has discovered that Altria is a girl for so long. Morgan tilted his head and said to Altria, Altria, why are you here? Altria looked up at Morgan. His Royal Highness, I am here to help His Majesty Lot get the sword. At this point, she was a little strange. Isn't the sword not far away from His Majesty King Lot's personal sabre? How could it be possible that His Royal Highness Morgan didn't know him? Why should I come here? Altria's eyes were full of confusion. After hearing her say this, Morgan understood Merlin's sinister intentions almost instantly. Good you Merlin. You are really crumbs. Altria has no ambition to be king at all. Then you use deception to achieve your goal. Is it your goal to change Altria into men's clothing? The blood of King Arthur, and her appearance as a man, coupled with the fact that she drew the sword in the stone. She became a king. It was inevitable. But if you do that, Altria must be ruined. Merlin, you old bastard. Do you know what you will do to Altria? Morgan cursed in his heart. Don't look at Morgan's distaste for Altria all day long. However, she still likes her sister very much. What Merlin did now was to completely ruin her. If implemented according to Merlin's plan, Altria would become the king of fighting for Camelot in her life. She will act as a man all her life. It must not be revealed that she is actually a woman. A woman pretending to be a man is a fun thing for a day or two. But if you use the identity of a man to show people to others for the rest of your life, it has to be said to be sad. Especially, she has to become a king, according to the king expected by Merlin. Different from yourself, become a king by himself. This is my dream all the time. At the same time, there is Lot's lustful dog beside him, who can always accompany me. If I become a king, I will never be alone. But what about Altria? There is only one Merlin who hides evil intentions by her side. The king is not alone, but if his sister becomes the king, it is absolutely lonely. I won't let this happen. Morgan looked at Altria and thought in his heart. Lot's sabre? Where is it here? And when I was out of the city, I also saw Lot. He carried the sword on his body. It was not lost. Morgan looked around and asked Altria. Okay, no. Altria was dumbfounded. The sword? Altria pointed to the position of the sword in the stone and said. That sword? Morgan said with a smile. Don't you know the rumors that have recently appeared in the Chalk City? Everyone said that the person who can draw the sword in the stone will become Britain's natural choice king. But now it seems that many people have come to try, but they have not succeeded. So, am I being deceived by Teacher Merlin? Altria muttered to herself. Well, yes, from now on, that is indeed the case. Morgan nodded slightly. That sword, until now, no one can pull out that sword. Altria, I guess you will be no exception. Merlin knows that you are a serious knight. If you can't pull it out, you will definitely compete with it. Really? Altria nodded in approval. Others can't pull it out, and it's probably impossible to pull it out by myself. In addition, His Majesty Lot did not lose his sword. So, am I being deceived by the teacher? Altria thought to herself, laughing and crying in her heart. There is not much jealousy. She is very kind to the teacher who has been teaching herself. Even this is a small joke. It won't be angry. However, I still want to complain in my heart. Teacher, if you want to make fun of me, you can make fun of me, but you will wait until I finish cooking. Under the condition of being hungry, I ran a few kilometers to the outside of the city, and I had to run back later. Once and again, it was even more delayed to eat. My stomach has wronged you. Morgan looked at Altria's expression, knowing that she already believed her own words. But she has no plans to stop. Merlin, since you are counting on my sister, then I will use this in reverse. This is what it is called according to the words of sexual Guzi. Yes, he lifted a rock to hit himself in the foot. Thinking like this, Morgan asked Altria, Altria, by the way, do you want to pick up that sword? In no mood. Altria shook her head very honestly. Take the sword? How important is dry rice? Moreover, I can't hold the sword myself. Ahem. Morgan's face flushed. Then, she continued to say solemnly, well, then this is the order of the Knights of the Round Table. Knight Altria, I order you to pick up this sword. But, your highness? Altria was a little puzzled. How could he pick up this king's sword? Morgan continued to flicker. This sword is a treasure cherished by our Pendragon family, so ordinary people can't pick it up at all. Only the Pendragon family can pull it out. I don't know. This sword was secretly taken out, and it was put in the name of being able to choose the king. But I think this is a hidden evil. That despicable Votagung is not counted. Pendragon is the only one left. Those nobles will not allow a woman to draw the sword. Therefore, this sword will always be here and will not be drawn. Come out. But this sword stays here forever, and that is a blow to the Pendragon family's reputation. People will gradually forget Pendragon's claim to Camelot, and instead only pay attention to this sword in the stone. So mean. Hearing Morgan's words, Altria said in shock. Yes, it's really mean. Morgan's expression became even more embarrassed. But, I have a way to allow you to temporarily gain the ability to pick up the sword. So, Knight Altria, in order to smash the enemy's conspiracy, draw out the sword for me. Yes, Altria said firmly.